Hey cousins, welcome to Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas.
Welcome, cousins, to this episode of Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas. I'm Cornell Wright, your host at People's Life. Today I want to talk to you about something which I hope has been resolved completely, and that is the federal agents' appearance in Portland, Oregon. They appeared because there was a concern about the protesters executing their constitutional rights to assembly because allegedly they were throwing apples, cans, and then painting graffiti on the sides of whatever the courthouse, federal courthouse walls. Now, let's think about this. That was initiated because back during the Patriot Act, that it gave the federal government the opportunity of intervening to protect federal property among a number of other elements that were in fact what? In conflict with the Constitution, in my opinion. My opinion because it is a constitutional right for you to be able to assemble peacefully, right? The Patriot Act gave the opportunity for federal government to intervene with federal troops in the event that something was occurring that might impact federal property. However, there was no insignia on the part of those federal troops in Portland, no identification of any of the vans they used for securing the protesters, our cousins, who were exercising their constitutional rights. And so as a result, in my opinion, I see there was a conflict between the Constitution and how the Patriot Act was being used. Do you believe that when the Patriot Act was being written, that those crafters of that act thought that they were going to be applying the Patriot Act against fellow cousins in regards to their constitutional rights of being able to free assemble? Our independence rights of being able to protest something that we think is an injustice in our society? Come on, cousins. What does that mean? And when you think and you look at those pictures with no insignia, no identification, and our cousins, who we know are cousins, being taken away in unmarked vans without any Miranda acts, you know, the whole thing you've seen on TV, you have the right to, blah, 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 you know how that works, right? How does that make you feel? That makes you feel as though America's being as great as you and I want it to be? I don't think so. So let's think about that in a different context. There were also other cousins who were executing their rights, from what I understand, in Gettysburg a few months ago, 4th of July to be exact, in which they were executing their rights of the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, in which they were showing up at various activities in order to exercise their rights. Suppose there had been a confrontation and federal agents had been come in unmarked with their federal mandates to then start to sequester and suppress that activity. That's not a situation we ever want to see. Because when you think about it, we are supposed to be the United States of America. Think about how that played out around the world in regards to those countries who are, for lack of better phraseology, our opponents. All right? Folks who don't have democracy, who don't have the Constitution as their undergirding aspect of their country, think about how that played out. Think about how that's being twisted and turned, in which the federal government is coming in and impacting unmarked, non-insignia, once again, the people protesting something they think is a wrong. That's supposed to be a right that we have as cousins. No? We can't take that right away from the cousins. That's part of the Constitution. So, you start looking at that, and it says to me that something is askew. So as a result of that, cousins, the bad idea for the day is that, as my mother used to say, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Just because you have a power doesn't mean you have to exercise that power. So my suggestion is, the bad idea is that before that sort of power is used, let's have more people involved in that decision in order to recognize that, yes, there is in fact a genuine concern that we need to be concerned on the part of all the people of the country. Because when you think about that, not the governor nor the mayor of the Principality of Portland and the state of Oregon asked for that intervention. So what does that mean? Cousins, we need to be able to exercise our freedom, and perhaps now more than ever to be able to recognize that if we see something wrong or see something that motivates us to see that there's something action we need to take, particularly in regards to freedom of assembly and peaceful protest, we need to be able to do that. And by the way, I'm not concerned, me, and I'm sure not you, concerned about somebody writing on a wall or throwing an apple or a can. Throwing an apple or a can, I'm gonna try to dodge it. Okay? And if I can't miss it, okay, so I get hit. That's a good one for you. Remember dodgeball? Dodge the apple or the can. With graffiti is a whole lot different. There's a whole different level between graffiti and armed federal agents. By the way, we understand that they were federal agents that were armed. Okay? The other question is, ladies and gentlemen, cousins, think about this. There's allegedly concerned about money. How much money did it cost to bring those agents from wherever they were to Portland or to other cities in our country? Keep in mind, other cities in our country, from whatever their assigned duties were before. That's reallocation of resources from whatever they were supposed to be doing to something else that may in fact not be appropriate, or more importantly, necessary. So cousins, just because you have the power, you don't necessarily have to exercise the power. You don't have to use it. So to that regard, I say, let's be cautious in how we use these things, because when you think about it, in all the movies we've seen, it's we, the United States, who comes in to suppress and fight those guys who are suppressing the people. Right? So, that's the conclusion of this episode of Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas. You have your bad idea, and that is to have additional concern being made before the execution of power in that regard against our cousins. Because you think about it, the next time you have cousins who decide to carry out an activity, suppose there are then federal agents who then come in to suppress that. What does that look like? What does that become? Is that America that we want? I don't think it is. Cousins, that's not right. That's a bad idea. And more importantly, think about not only what does that mean for us in our environment, but think about how that plays out in the rest of the world that we're trying to influence, because in fact we are in an influence battle between other people and other players in the world. That's this episode of Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas. You take care of yourselves, wear your mask, maintain social distancing, wash your hands, and be concerned about your other cousins. They might not be as healthy as you are. Take care of yourself.